All right. Hi, everybody. This is Jake, your resident content cowboy here, and today I wanted to make a video that will help some newer players get a hang of what's going on with the items inside this game. I've had a couple requests for an item guide, so hopefully this helps you out a little bit. I'll talk about how the items combine, good uses for each of the items, and maybe what you could build them into the late game as you get towards some of the bigger items at round 25. Basically, by the way, like, comment, subscribe. It means a lot. I really appreciate when you do. Thank you, everybody, for all the engagement. I love it. Again, if you're a high-level player, I don't think you're going to get a ton out of this guide. You might get my opinions on some of these items, but you know what you like if you're good at the game. This video really is for people who are just getting used to it, to understand what do these items do and how can they help the build that you have. So let's hop right into it just with a basic overview of what's going on with items. At the start of each match, you get 3 items basically from the first 3 rounds, and they are always an item in this row and then this little guy right here. It's always one of these items. In fact, besides the later rounds in the game, I think 25 plus, when you get a battle against the computer, you only get these items and then later these items right here, these blue ones. So the purple items, all the purple items you see and all the orange items you see, you only get those through combining your items. Guess quick side note, you also get some of these items if a player is defeated. You might get some of their items, so maybe they've combined some items. But as far as your items are concerned, you're really only getting these gray ones up here. These are your basic items, and you use them in combination to build all of these purple items. And then once you have a purple item and you later get a blue item on round 25, round 30, you can use those to combine to these gold items. So you're never going to find a gold item from beating a computer wave. You're never going to find a purple item. You're never going to find either of those two. They're only made through combining your items. So let's talk about your basic items here. There's Cattle Hide Armor. This is our first one. You get +5 armor. This is often used if you have a tankier unit and you want to increase his effectiveness. So a thought here, for the most part, almost always, you want to put most all of your items on one person. And as you continue going, 1 or 2 people. You've got ability damage items on your mage, you've got all of your attack damage items on your carry unit, and you've got beefier items on possibly your mage or carry or one of your tankier units, so that you can make them more sustainable and last longer. So the thought behind that is decide who your star unit's going to be and sort of start putting everything beneficial on that unit. So let's say you've decided that you're going to make an assassin build. You probably won't, I will say, get a ton out of the magic items. You might get some out of the health items, some out of the resistance items, but a lot of your focus is going to be on getting the attack damage items and finding the combinations you want within that. It gets more and more complicated as it goes, but I do think a basic just starter rule is buy the items to help the character you want to help most. If you think I want a really strong magic damage character, buy a lot of magic items. If you think I want a really beefy, tanky character, buy a lot of the tank items. And if you think, oh, I want a really strong carry character, carry meaning someone who is going to do a ton of the attack damage for your team, buy a lot of those items. It is more complex than that, but that's a good jumping off point for new players. So, again, Cattle Hide Armor, that gives you +5 armor. This is sort of a tankier item. Magicka Crystal, this gives you 100% mana restoration on hit. This is good for your mages, and it just lets them cast their abilities faster. It's the more they hit enemies, the higher their mana gauge goes, and then they can cast their ability or their spell. The Broken Sword is plus 20 attack. This combos with a few items that help your carries. This one's actually a little tricky because I don't think it's the best item for carries necessarily. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. Dracula Mask. Dracula Mask gives your person attack lifesteal, so not ability damage lifesteal, but if they are hitting them with a physical attack, lifesteal. The Life Crystal gives you plus 250 HP. HP is always nice. The Magicka Staff, plus 15% ability damage. If your if you're, let's say you plan on your mages doing all the damage, a Thunder Spirit or a Tortilla Elder or something like that, you're going to get a lot of use out of a Magicka Staff. You need Magicka ability. You need ability damage to go up when you're playing those characters. Rune Hammer. This is plus 20 attack damage as well, just like the little dagger, but it combos into other things. Again, this is mostly used for your carries, a little bit for a tanky item that also helps your carries. Wooden Club, plus 15% attack speed. This is a great item for your carries. This doesn't help you a ton with your mages, but again, except for one very specific item which we need to talk about, putting most of your items that you get on one person, your star unit, is usually the best course of action. Until you get a better hang of what all the items do, you can just think, at least I'm going to stack everything that's useful on this one person. Resistance Cloak, plus 15% magic resistance and 10 HP regeneration. Fun item, good for tanks, good early too. I like the way it combos. And then the final gray item. So again, these are the items that you find in rounds 1, 3, 10, 15, and 20, right? I think I got that right. These are all gray items. This is the lucky coin. It gives you plus 10% evasion rate. So the cool thing about the lucky coin, especially, you've got a feathered build and you have really, really high evasion, that will help. And it combos into some really, really fun items. So let's start talking a little bit about combining items together and what you get from combining them together. Starting from the cattle hide armor here, it has 3 paths it can go. And you see as I go down the list, most things have 3 paths and a couple have 2 paths. So from the cattle hide armor, you can combine 2 cattle hide armors to make 1 steel plate mail. So you still get plus 5 armor, and it grants allies within 2 grids 3 armor. So it's kind of an aura that goes out to a lot of your guys. This combos into one of my favorite late game items, so I do think this is a pretty good item. Great for tanks, Warpwood Sages, Venomancers, people who are going to be in the front lines and take a lot of damage. This is a good item for them. Not as good with your assassins who are kind of jumping around, because you might not get to benefit a lot of your team with that aura, but this aura will really help all of your allies, especially if you got that one person in the front just soaking up a lot of damage there. Going back, the second way that this can branch is the Dragonborn Shield. This takes the cattle hide armor and that life crystal. Got the controls. And that life crystal. So you get the benefit of 250 HP from the life crystal and a 75% chance to block 50 damage when being attacked. So this is definitely a melee units item, or an item, a unit that's really up there taking damage. A knight unit is sort of a tanky unit like your Warpwood Sage, your Doom, units like that can get a lot of benefit out of this item. If I'm being honest, this is not my favorite item. I like other combinations a little bit more than this, but definitely strong for a tanky unit or whoever you want to survive a while that's up in the fight. I don't like putting this item on a hunter because, let's say you have it on a dwarf sniper or something like that. It's going to take a while before people get to your dwarf sniper, usually. They might have assassins that jump in there early. But in general, I want to just kit a unit like that out with attack damage. But my frontline units that I want around for a long time, Dragonborn Shield, not a bad call. Not my favorite. Now, the third option is the Ice Plate Mail. So that takes the Cattle Hide Armor and a lucky coin. You have to have both of these items, and then you combine them together to get this item. This gives you +8 armor, so more armor than just having the Cattle Hide Armor, and +15% evasion rate, so more evasion than you have just from having the lucky coin. It gives you armor and evasion. Really cool. Great for a tank. Great for a frontline unit. And it also has a unique ability where anyone attacking you, it reduces their attack speed by 15% when they're hitting you with basic attacks. So anyone who's attacking you has a chance of missing. They are dealing with your higher armor, and their attack speed is reduced. It gets one of your tanks, and it puts them in a position to make one of the enemy carries less effective. This is one of my favorite early combination items. I really, really like Ice Plate Mail, and I really, really like what it turns into. So I think that's a very strong combo. That is how the Cattle Hide Armor will start. So when you're looking at items, I don't grab each item I want right away. I kind of let at least the first 3 rounds go and then see what kind of combinations I can make. So if the first 3 rounds have gone by and I see that I have a Cattle Hide Armor and a lucky coin as options in different categories, I'll go, okay, I'll grab Cattle Hide, I'll grab lucky coin, and then I can turn that into an Ice Plate Mail, put that on my frontline tanky unit, and we'll be doing pretty good. Let's talk about Magicka Crystal. Again, this is the one that gives you mana restoration. Its first combination option is putting 2 Magicka Crystals together to give you the Orb of Regen. This I don't see as a high level meta play. I don't see many people grabbing the Orb of Regen. Even though I think its top level item is good, it's clear that other things are a little more powerful. So this gives you ability cooldown reduction of 20% and mana restoration on hit. So not only when you hit people are you getting that mana restoration, but you have a chance of using your ability again. The tough thing about an item like this is you're not always even going to get to cast twice. Maybe this will let you cast twice. Maybe this will let you cast a bunch. There are some units I love putting this on. But in general, I think this is a little weaker of a choice than some of your other options. For instance, this is probably the most popular combination for mages right now, is taking your Magicka Crystal and your Magicka Staff and combining to the Pulse Staff. It gives you 15% ability damage, mana restoration on hit, and you have the ability to deal 300 magic damage to a random enemy every 15 seconds inside the match, and the initial cooldown is 2 seconds, so as long as you're alive for 2 seconds, somebody in the match gets hit. It's good. It's a really good early item. You still get the mana restoration, you get the ability damage. I see most people build this way when they have a mage build, and it's really good. The third option under Magicka Crystal is the Teleport Dagger. So the Teleport Daggers are a little tricky, and you've got to know what unit you want this on and what you want to get out of it. The Teleport Dagger gives you +20 attack because it comes from the dagger, and 100 mana restoration on hit because it comes from that Magicka Crystal. And you flash your unit, kind of like an assassin when they jump, you flash to the farthest grid that you can attack an enemy, and you gain 40 mana. So not only do you get attack, you get to go all the way across the map to oftentimes their backline units, and you get a lot of mana. There's some really fun combinations with this. Units that need mana to activate their ability but want to get in a really fun position, this is a cool item, but it's tricky. It's tricky to use at first. Some combinations I think are really good. You can put this on a unit like Fallen Witcher. You flash to another point of the map, and then you get a bunch of mana that Fallen Witcher needs to kind of assume their second form. That's a fun way to use this. I love putting this on Pirate Captain. So you flash kind of to their back line, and you really quickly get the ability to send that ghost ship and stun a lot of people. There are a lot of fun ways to use this, but it's trickier than the other options. For the most part, if you're going with an ability build, I really think you'll get a lot of use out of the Pulse Staff. I think that's a super solid item right now on anyone that's doing ability damage. Let's go to our next item, the Broken Sword. Broken Sword, as I said before, gives you plus 20 attack, and its 3 options are the Crystal Sword, which you take 2 Broken Swords together, you get plus 40 attack and a 20% chance to deal 150% damage on hit. The only units I would put this on, well, you could put it on a tanky kind of unit like a Venomancer, because they're like a tanky carry, really. Or, you know, your Hunters or Assassins. This is not my favorite item, because it only gives you attack damage. It doesn't give you any other utility beyond that, but it can make you really powerful. So if your option is this or kind of nothing, and you have a carry that you want to put it on, you want to put it on an Abyssal Crawler, you want to put it on a Lightblade Knight or a Doom or something, this is a great item, especially someone who has high attack speed, because you just have a higher likelihood of getting that 150% damage on hit the more times you hit someone. Again, not my favorite combination, but good for a carry. We already talked about Teleport Dagger. That's where that you combine the dagger with that Magicka Crystal. And the third option, this is an interesting one, the Black Ice Lance. So this gives you plus 25 attack and 15% ability damage. This takes the dagger and that Magicka Staff, putting them together. The big thing about this is its unique passive. Pushes the attacker to the farthest grid when receiving melee attacks, and it has a cooldown. So this can kind of keep some people alive that you don't want killed early. For instance, I'm talking about Dwarf Sniper again, but let's say you have Dwarf Sniper and you put him all the way down in that corner. If you're looking at my video, like, you're down there in the corner right there, Dwarf Sniper, that's where you stay. If an assassin leaps across the map and attacks melee your Dwarf Sniper, all of a sudden they're pushed back to the farthest grid. And that can be enough time for you to get other attacks off or see what's happening. Same thing, units get in close to your Thunder Spirit or something, and you got an item like this on them. They melee your Thunder Spirit, and now they're pushed away, and they've got to come back. And oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes when they come back, they might find another unit on the board to fight, and that keeps your mage alive longer. This is another tricky item, not my favorite, but there are a few units this works really well on. Basically, anyone that does good attack damage and ability damage, because this gives 15% ability damage, so you definitely want it on a mage. Like a Flame Wizard is a good call. I feel like Thunder Spirit's a good call. Dwarf Sniper's a good call. Either of the Feathered Hunters is a strong call for this item. These are all good places to put this. I think this is a good item, not my favorite. In fact, I don't think Broken Sword in general builds to my favorite items, but you might find that you love these and you get so much benefit out of them. So those are kind of the 3 paths to go with that Broken Sword. Let's talk about Dracula Mask. Dracula Mask is plus 5% base attack lifesteal. You gotta put this on someone who you expect is going to attack a lot and needs that lifesteal to survive. Your carries like Abyssal Crawler, specifically Abyssal Crawler and Lightblade Knight, work so well for this, especially if you combo it up to the next item. So let's see here. Dracula Mask combos up to Frantic Mask. This one you have to be really, really careful you're putting on the right unit. If you take a Dracula Mask and a wooden club together, you get the Frantic Mast. It gives you 10% lifesteal, really nice, and 40% attack speed, really nice for a few carries, but it silences you, so you don't get to use your ability. There are a few people who benefit from this because their abilities are passive. For instance, Abyssal Crawler benefits from this, has a passive ability. Lightblade Knight, its glaive bounces around, it benefits from this. You don't need to do anything with these characters. They don't have an ability that triggers based on mana, so being silenced doesn't matter. The Berserker, that Glacial Warrior, this is another good item. So there are a few characters that really benefit from this item. And then as you build towards its final, I guess you would call it legendary tier build for it, it actually drops the Silence's owner little negative aspect of it, so it can be used on other units. But in general, you have to put this on a carry, and that carry has to be someone who doesn't have an ability that you want triggered, basically. And there are a few characters like that, and on those characters it's really good. The other option with Dracula Mask is the Puppet Mask. This takes the Dracula Mask and the Resistance Cloak together. You get 15% magic resistance, 10 HP regen, and you grant 15% attack lifesteal to all allies within 2 grids. So on attack heavy builds, a Beast Synergy, Warrior, things like that, Glacial Knight, all of this works really, really well with this item. I love running this on a lot of those builds. One of my favorite items. I just love aura items. I think they're so fun. You get all your units in this tight little ball as long as you don't get blasted with a bunch of magic, you know? And now everyone in that ball gets 15% attack lifesteal. So it can be really, really strong. A really fun combination that I like a lot. Okay, Life Crystal here. Life Crystal is the 250 HP. We already talked a bit about Dragonborn Shield. Not my favorite, but good for some of your tankier units. This is a fun item, the Cloud Halberd. The owner gets 15% evasion rate, that's because of this combos with the lucky coin, and 250 HP, and then it has an active ability that happens every 30 seconds, basically at the start of the match is really when you see this, and if your units survive a long time. It disarms the enemy with the highest attack for 3 seconds. So this can shut down an enemy carry for a little while and give your team a chance to fight a little bit without that unit being able to attack. This is a pretty cool item, and there are a lot of different ways to use this, but I like putting this item on some of my tankier units because obviously evasion and HP, and the longer your tanky unit is alive, the higher there is a chance that this could activate again. It's a pretty cool combination. I do like this item. I think it's pretty fun. The next option here, this is one of my favorite items right now, the Python Wand. You get plus 15 attack and 350 HP, which is a cool little bump. So you combine this Life Crystal with that Rune Hammer you see right there. An active ability is you get 100% magic resistance and immune to abilities for 4 seconds with a 30-second cooldown. I love putting this on some of your squishier carries that jump into the back line like an assassin. So if I've got an Abyssal Crawler or a Shadow Crawler or someone like that, and I know they're going to leap back into the enemy lines and I don't want them to die right away to a big blast of magic, I put this Python Wand on them. It works for a lot of units. You can also take an item like this and put it on your big ability caster. So you've got this Tortilla Elder in the back row, and you want to make sure that they don't get immediately chunked down by some magic that your opponent throws at them. This is one of my favorite items right now. Almost any unit you put this on will benefit from having this item because you're going to be stacking items, as I said before. So there we go. That is Life Crystal. Let's take a look at Magicka Staff. We already talked about this item, the Pulse Staff. I think it's one of the best items in the game for mages right now. I would definitely build it. This is another option, the Voodoo Staff. It gives a huge amount of ability damage, but it doesn't have the fun active ability, and it doesn't have the mana restoration. If you have a choice, I would always pick the Pulse Staff over the Voodoo Staff. Ability damage is great, and it's great to stack a ton of ability damage on your really strong unit, but you need your unit to cast, and the other active ability is just so good right now that I don't think this is necessarily better than the other item in most scenarios. Not that it's bad. Put this on your character who's doing a ton of ability damage. Yeah, they're going to benefit from this greatly, but I would rarely choose it over the other option. And we already talked about the Black Ice Lance, a cool item, and there are a few units that can really benefit from it. As far as units I think that could benefit from this, you know, Thunder Spirit and Tortilla Elder both do that huge amount of magic damage in their attacks. Thunder Spirit because it happens a lot, and Tortilla Elder because it's just that huge blast. Other units this could be good on. Swordman, the unit who spins. It's weird because, you know, he's a melee unit with a spinning sword, but he has magic damage, so there are other places to put it, but again, I would highly recommend the Pulse Staff instead. Going over to Rune Hammer here. Rune Hammer is one of my favorite items. You can combo 2 of them into a Maelstrom. A Maelstrom gives you plus 25 attack, so a little more attack, and a 25% chance to deal 100 magic damage to up to 3 enemies when dealing base attacks with a cooldown of 0.5 seconds. So you have a chance to activate this a lot. This is that thing that sparks chain lightning to all the units around you. I really like this item. I don't think it's top tier meta wise, but it's so fun to use. Putting it on any of your units that are going to be alive for a while, dealing a lot of your carry damage. So put it on an Abyssal Crawler, put it on a Lightblade Knight, put it on one of your hunters. You know, like putting it on a Dwarf Sniper is really, really fun. If your unit's going to be alive for a while and attacking at a relatively good speed, you have a chance to get a ton of extra magic damage to up to 3 enemies as it moves around. So the only tough thing about this is it's, you know, you'll get some rounds where it seems to happen like boom, 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 and then other rounds where you think it didn't happen once, like my stupid Maelstrom didn't even work. So it's not the most consistent, but boy, I have so much fun with it. I like picking it. The next combination with the Rune Hammer is the Oblivion Staff. You get plus 20 attack and 15% attack speed. That's combining the Rune Hammer and that wooden club together. This has a unique passive that I think is really, really good. It has a 40% chance to trigger a bonus effect. So about half the time, the attack can't be evaded, so that shuts down feathered units that are going to evade your attack. And it reduces the target's HP regeneration by 35%. There are some units that are stacked with so much HP regen that an item like this really shifts how long that unit can survive. I love putting this on a carry. I love putting this on a Venomancer, who is often a carry unit. I love putting it on a Doom. Anyone who's going to be throwing attacks, the attack speed is great, the attack damage is great, and the ability to stop someone from regenerating so much, really useful. I like Oblivion Staff a lot. And the final item we've talked about, Python Wand, one of my favorite items right now. I love Python Wand. Wooden Club. So we've talked about 2 of the items it moves to already. Wooden Club gives you the Frantic Mask, which again, put that on someone who you can be okay with it silencing. Never put it on a mage or something like that where they don't get to cast. The Oblivion Staff. And finally, the Shadow Edge. The Shadow Edge. Oh, this is such a cool item. It takes the Wooden Club and Lucky Coin together. And this is that item you see. Sometimes you'll see a unit when they're attacking. There's that big like whoosh of blades around them that you see on the map. That's what's coming from the Shadow Edge. It gives you the evasion rate and the attack speed from the 2 items. But it gives you a unique passive. When dealing melee attacks, it has to be a melee attack. So there are a lot of units this doesn't work on. It deals pure damage, which is unblockable, unmitigatable damage of come on, Jake. Pure damage equal to 20% of the attack damage to enemies within 1 grid around the target. So you have this on your Avenge Knight or your Abyssal Crawler or your Venomancer, your Doom, your Hell Knight. You put this on someone who you know is going to be near a lot of enemies attacking melee wise, and they are just going to start hitting everyone around them, especially someone with high attack speed. I talk about Abyssal Crawler a lot, but Abyssal Crawler is a great assassin carry, like the assassin carry in my opinion, and Shadow Edge is just ooh, mwah, such a great item for that character. Okay, great. Next, the Resistance Cloak. We haven't talked about the first combination, which is putting 2 Resistance Cloaks together to make the Anti-Maga Cloak? Anti-Maga. Wow, getting political. The owner has plus 30% magic resistance, plus 20% HP regen, and an active ability that all allies within 2 grids gain a shield that can block 150 magical damage for 5 seconds with a cooldown of 30 seconds. So, what are some situations this is good in? You could put this on a group of Glacial Knights where you think, oh, my knights don't have a lot in the way of magic resistance, or put it on your beasts, or put it in a setup where you think if we get hit by a huge wave of magic, we are in trouble. This includes hunters, this includes mages. There are a lot of situations where a big blast from a Tortilla Elder will decimate a lot of your team. But if you've got this item on and everyone gets that magic shield, you get to block a lot of that damage as it comes to you. I'll be honest and say it's not my favorite item. There are other things I build before this, but when you're facing this and you see that shield go up and it mitigate a ton of damage, you think, dang, that's a pretty good time to have that cloak. And then we did talk about the next item that combos, the Puppet Mask. So we've already kind of talked about how that works. I really like that item. I think it's super fun. Finally, the Lucky Coin. We've talked about all the variations of the Lucky Coin. I like all of them personally. Shadow Edge, great for carries. Cloud Halberd is a fun item, good for your tanks. It's not amazing for your carries, but you know, whatever unit's gonna stay alive a long time, again, stack items on that unit. This is a nice item for them. And another one of my favorite items right now, the Ice Plate Mail. So we've talked about all the basic items, and we've talked about all of their combinations. So what we have right there, that's every item that you get from those random creeps, and that is, or I shouldn't say random creeps, but AI creeps that you fight in those in-between rounds, and every single item that you can combine from them. All right? Again, the big thought behind this, if you are going magic damage, get some of those magic damage items. Get a Pulse Staff. If you are going carry, make sure you get something that combos with that Rune Hammer. Get that Shadow Edge on one of your melee units. So once you kind of do that, then we're moving into the end game items, and they're end game items that are clearly more popular in the meta right now. I'm just going to sort of talk to you about each one and uses for them. I'll mention my favorites, but all of them are good in different situations. So first, the way you get the endgame items is once you get up to the 25th round, you get that boss wave. I'm pretty sure it's 25th round, right? I hope I'm not saying it wrong and it's the 30th round. But either way, you'll know it when you see it. You get to pick one of these blue items here. And we'll just go through them real quick. The Ghostblade gives you plus 30 attack. The Wraiths Shard plus 30% attack speed. The Dragonblood Axe plus 650 HP. The Nether Essence, 40% mana restoration on injury. The Mysterial Staff, 15% ability damage and 100% mana restoration on hit. And the Dragonthorn Bracer, 10% ability lifesteal. So these are all great items, but their main purpose, not only are they good, just giving someone plus 30 attack or 30% attack speed, 650 HP, these are all good things, but their main number one purpose is to combine to the legendary items. So let's see what each can combine to. And you're only going to get a choice between 3 of these once you win that boss wave. So you might be really hoping you find a Ghostblade or a Wraith Shard, but it's just not one of the options and you have to go with something else. That's why you probably don't only want to build one item. Like, don't build, 5 of the Pulse Staffs and that's the only thing you build, because if you happen to not get the item that combos with that, you're kind of in trouble. All right, Ghostblade. Ghostblade has 3 options that it combos from. So again, this item combos with one of your earlier combined items. It will never combine with one of the gray items, but any of the items we talked about that can be made by putting 2 gray items together, these blue items will combo with them. I guess you could say these rare items combo to make these legendary items. So this combos with our Crystal Sword to make the Dragonbone Ballista. It gives you plus 70 attack and a 20% chance to deal 350% damage on hit. This is a big item for a carry. Again, probably not my favorite, but oh my gosh, when you have one of your assassins or your super strong hunters all kitted out using this item, you put this on your Lightblade Knight and you just see that 350% damage happening. Yeah, that's a big deal. This item, you really need to pair it with something that gives you attack speed as well, because again, it's a 20% chance to happen. There are some rounds where it just doesn't happen quickly enough and your units get killed a little too soon. So it's not my favorite, but it does do a ton of damage. Another option that the Ghostblade can combo to is the Monkey King Cane. Gives you plus 80 attack, 15% attack speed, and a 100% chance to trigger an ability that your attack cannot be evaded and it reduces the target's HP regen by 70%. This is legit so good when you're fighting a feathered build and you need a unit to start hitting these people. 100% of the time you're going to hit them, and it stops their HP regen. Really, really good. So it's good for elusives. It's good for a build that has a lot of regen going on, like a goblin build, and you need to start chunking these units down. I really like Monkey King Kane on one of my carries, for sure. And then, the third option here is not something I use as often. It's the Axa Fury. So it combos with that Shadow Blade. You get 15% attack speed, you get evasion rate of 15%, you get 35% attack, and you now get the ability when dealing melee only attacks. This has to go on a melee character, will not work on any of your ranged characters. When dealing melee only attacks, you deal 30% pure damage to enemies within 2 grids. So this turns that little blade thing that you see hitting multiple enemies into a big amount of damage that hits a lot of people at once. It's a really fun item to put on your melee carry. All right, moving on to the Wraiths Shard. The Wraiths Shard combos with the Maelstrom to make Mjolnir. The owner gets 50 attack, 30% attack speed, and you get a 25% chance, so still a low chance, to deal 200 magical damage to up to 6 enemies when dealing with base attacks. So the tough thing about this is it's still a 25% chance, but hopefully by this point you've got enough attack speed where you get to see this triggered a lot. The only downside to an item like this is a 25% chance, kind of like the other one, 20% chance. It's a little inconsistent, so some rounds you'll run away with this and some rounds you won't. If you have a way to keep your carry alive for a long time, like it's a Venomancer that has HP regen and you've got your Goblin buff going on, I think this is a really good item, or an item that you know is just a tank that's going to be around for a long time. It's a little random though, so because of that I can't say it's the absolute best way to go. The next item this can move into, Barbaric Curus. This item I feel like is legit so good. Barbaric Curus, plus 8 armor and 15% attack speed to allies within 2 grids, and it reduces the armor of the enemies within range by 8 and their attack speed by 15%. If you put this on your tankiest unit that's going to be around a lot of enemies, this is a global shift in what's happening. You've got all of your guys getting armor and attack speed, and you've got all of their guys losing armor and attack speed. Really, really fun item on your beefy frontline tanks, and it can really help support a lot of people around it. So I really like Barbaric Curus. Fun item. Oh boy. And then the Infused Mask. So I told you from this Frantic Mask that silences the owner, when you do combine it with this Wraiths Shard and you get the Infused Mask, it no longer silences the owner. So this can now be used on people who have abilities, which is pretty cool. It gives you 10% attack lifesteal and 50% attack speed. It's a big, big increase in attack speed. And its unique passive reduces the armor of the target you're attacking by 8 for 5 seconds when dealing basic attacks. So you put this on your unit that you want to keep alive and also doing a ton of damage, and it's really, really strong because you're going to be killing everyone faster. And an important thought in auto chess, a unit isn't any more or less useful depending how much life it has. It's either 100% useful because it has life, or 0% useful because it has no life. There's no moral victory in getting a lot of the enemy's life pretty low. You want them dead, and this item helps you kill units off the battlefield. Pretty good item for a lot of carries. Okay, moving on to the Dragon Blood Axe. Dragon Blood Axe gives you 650 HP. This item combines into 3 interesting items. The first is the Holy Spirit Lance. This moves with this lance right here. It combines with that. The owner has 30 attack, plus 30 attack, 15% ability damage, and 650 HP. And you deal extra damage equal to 30% of the attack, of your attack, to 2 enemies within 2 grids around the target. if you're using ranged attacks. So this is something you can put on one of your ranged units, and it's kind of like that same ability that works with that sword, the Shadow Blade. It's like that same ability, but it's for your ranged units. This is great on any of your ranged carries. They will really, really benefit from this item, and it still has the ability where it pushes away a melee attacker that jumps near them. I love an item like this on a dwarf sniper. It's a fun item. Okay, let's move back to the Dragon Blood Axe. Heaven's Gift is the next thing you can combo with it. That combos with this shield, which again, I don't love this shield. It gives you 625 HP, a 75% chance to block 50 damage, and an active ability which restores HP equal to 15% of each unit's own HP for all allies within 3 grids, and grants them a 100% chance to block 10 damage for 10 seconds. So, not my favorite, not something I build a lot, but this is something if you know that your group has pretty good sustain to it, this is an item you can put on one of your beefier units, and partway through the game, everyone's going to restore some health. It's pretty useful, and it also has not a terrible cooldown of 30 seconds, so if you have units that live for a while, I could see this being pretty good, working for a tankier build. Again, not really my favorite choice. We also have the Halberd of Judgment, so this just combos off that lance from earlier, the Cloud Halberd. It gives 15% evasion, 800 HP, which is a nice HP bonus, and it disarms the enemy with the highest attack for 5 seconds. This shuts down carries at the start of matches. I like this because it can stop your opponent's really, really tough assassin unit from picking off all your units before they're able to do what you want them to do in the match. A pretty good item that I like seeing on a lot of tanks. I think it's a really strong item, and again, it shuts down opponent carries for a little while. Okay, the next item is the Nether Essence. 40% mana restoration on injury, so when you get hit, you get more mana. This combos with, again, one of my favorite items earlier, to give you plus 20 attack, 350 HP, 40% mana restoration on injury, and your active ability now increases your magic resistance and ability and being immune from abilities for 9 seconds. This is huge. Putting this on a unit that you don't want to die until they get to do a lot of damage is really, really big. This isn't my first choice, but I do love putting this on a unit where I think if this, Abyssal Crawler or if this Tortilla Elder gets, destroyed by a huge amount of magic damage early, I'm screwed. This is a great item to keep them alive long enough to do whatever job they need you to do for them. Let's see here. Next item, Flicker Staff. This combines with that little, I don't think it's called a Blink Dagger in this game, Teleport Dagger or whatever. You still get the 20% attack. You still get the 100% mana restoration on hit. You get the 40% mana restoration on injury. Now this is a cool ability. You now flash to the farthest grid, like that Teleport Dagger. And you get 50 mana, but you reflect 100% damage received for 6 seconds back to the attacker. So this is so fun to pop a unit in, and you could see a bunch of assassins or someone attack them, and they're all getting the damage reflected back to them. A bunch of your strong enemy hunters are looking at it and going, what is happening here? How are my units dying in this weird way? It's a situational item, but I think putting it on the right units, yeah, super beneficial. And it's almost your opponent is kind of kicking themselves for doing so much damage to you for a little while. The third option is the Jade Pipe. This combos with the anti-Magicka Cloak. And the Jade Pipe gives you 35% magic resistance, 40% mana restoration on injury, 30 HP regen. So it makes you really tanky. And it gives you an even better shield that blocks more magic damage for your allies within 3 grids. It's just a good item that you put on a tanky unit when you know you're going to be dealing with ability damage and you want to keep a lot of your units alive from those first big blasts of ability damage. That can really help out with that. Okay, moving on to our next item, the Mysterial Staff. 15% ability damage, 100 mana restoration on hit. Pretty cool. When you combo it with the Voodoo Staff, you get the Scythe of Vise. 50% ability damage and 100 mana restoration on hit. Again, not my favorite path to go, but this is a ton of ability damage. So if you have this on a unit that you plan on being your magic carry, your Tortola Elder, your Devastator, maybe your Thunder Spirit or something like that, even though he doesn't scale probably well enough for this. But your unit that's doing a ton of magic damage, it's pretty strong. And it also has a great active ability that it hexes a random enemy into a penguin for 5 seconds. This can be super beneficial or not that useful. Who knows, that active ability, but a ton of ability damage. Not bad, also not my favorite. I think I would rather put the Origin Wand on, which is 25% ability damage, which is less, 150% mana restoration on hit, but its active now deals 10% max HP plus 450 magical damage to a random enemy with a 12-second cooldown, and in the first 2 seconds of the match it goes off. So if someone has a ton of HP, this can really do some good damage to them. And then it's just also, it just feels like free damage. You didn't have to do anything for it. If your character's alive for a while, it can happen multiple times. I like the Origin Wand a lot. I think it's a fun one for your ability carries. And then finally, the Orb of Refresh. I don't get to use that one this often. I do like it. I think I like it probably more than I see it used in the meta. I don't see it used that much in the meta, but you take the Orb of Regen, which is 2 of these little Magicka guys, and this staff, you get the Orb of Refresh, which gives you 200% mana restoration on hit and 15% ability damage. The only problem with so much mana restoration is at some point your ability is still on cooldown, so it doesn't matter unless you're playing like a divine build or something like that. However, the unique passive this gives you resets the owner's ability cooldown immediately after casting. So you get to use your ability twice in a row. It's really fun to do. I don't see it get used as often as I would like because a lot of things get in the way. Like you think like, oh, I'll get to do 2 Tortola Elder Blasts, but in that meantime, someone could come in and almost kill you. Someone could silence you. A lot of things can happen between your first cast, strangely, and your second cast. It's really fun when you use it. I especially like it on a unit like Devastator, who just puts down like 2 barrels basically to blow up on everybody. Or I like it on a unit like the Dark Spirit, who puts down just 2 of those massive life-sucking portals. I really like that. But I don't think it's as useful maybe as the others. Still a fun item to use for your ability units, for sure. Someone who you want their ability to trigger twice in a row. Finally, Dragon Thorn Bracer. This item gives you 10% ability lifesteal. Cool. Whenever you use an ability, you get 10% lifesteal from it. I don't actually always put this on someone who needs ability lifesteal, but it is good. This combines to Ice Armor. Oh, one of my favorites. Actually, both items this combines to I love. You get plus 10 armor, 15% evasion rate. Oh, and by the way, this combo's from the Ice Plate mail. Armor, evasion rate, ability lifesteal, and an active ability that happens every 30 seconds. It deals 300 magical damage to enemies within 5 grids. So you kind of plop this person in the middle. You're getting most everybody with this. And it reduces their attack speed by 30% for 5 seconds. This is a really cool item, and it really disrupts the battlefield. And especially with the 10% ability lifesteal, tanks like a Warpwood Sage that use an ability to gain life back, oh my god, this just like, it stacks so well. Such a fun item. I love Ice Armor. And the other item this makes, I think, is also so cool. It combos with the, combos with the Cloak, the Puppet Mask, that already gives 15% lifesteal to allies within 2 grids. This new item, you get magic resistance and HP regen. It gets 20% attack lifesteal and 20% ability lifesteal to allies within 3 grids. I love putting this on a build that already has a ton of regen and stuff. So if I go 6 Goblin or something like that, and I get my Venomancer out there, and I get someone who combos with that to give us that Warlock synergy that already gives you lifesteal, this just stacks more lifesteal on that. I really, really like it. I don't think it's top meta or anything like that, but I love putting this on a build that has a ton of HP regeneration. So there we go. That is every item in the game that I've gone through, except some of the items that it doesn't show me on here, like the Heart of Mech and the Green Essence, stuff like that. Oh, and the Experience book. So I could talk about those more, but those are going to be in specific videos. This is just an item guide for how to combine things, what some things I think are really positive, and maybe what you could go towards late game. Again, for your melee carries, I like going towards items that benefit them melee-wise. I know that's pretty obvious, but you give them an Oblivion Staff, it gives you attack, it gives you attack speed, and a chance to slow down their HP regen. You give them a Crystal Sword, plus 40 attack and a 20% chance to deal damage on hit. So you just choose something that works for you. If you're going mage, I really recommend a Pulse Staff on who you think is going to be doing your most ability damage there. Gives you mana restoration, gives you ability damage, has an active ability. Again, a couple items I love right now. Python Wand is a great one. Just makes your unit immune to kind of a big burst of magic damage early, so hopefully they can get some damage done. And then as you move into late game, just decide what unit is your important unit and continue to build towards making them really, really beastly. So if they are a super strong melee unit, get a Monkey King cane on them. If they're a super strong mage, get an Origin Wand or a Scythe on them. All you need to do with items when you first start playing, before you figure out a lot to them, stack them all on your like the unit that you think is going to be the best unit for you on the board, and that's usually your highest starred unit and the unit that benefits most from your synergies. And then just continue in that direction until that unit's full of great items, and then start putting it on whatever secondary unit works out as well. I hope that helped. There's a lot to items in this game, and I could kind of put together a tier list, but it's so situational. There are items that I would say are better than others. Like I said, I see Pulse Staff used on most every mage much more often than I see an item like Orb of Regen. But if you just sort of go with the things that are beneficial to that particular type of unit, put tanky items on your tanky characters, put attack damage items on your melee or ranged carry units, and putting Magicka items on your magic units, you will do pretty well. And then just taking the time to go, okay, I'm not just going to pick which item I want every time. I'm going to wait until I get the first 3 or so. I'm going to see what I can combine and go from there. I hope that guide helps. I know there's a lot to items. There's probably a lot I haven't covered. If you still have some more questions, let me know in the comments, and hopefully I can help you out. Again, this is no definitive list, and a lot of this is just my opinion. You'll develop your own opinions and play styles as you go, and you'll go, oh, Jake was so right about this one, and Jake was so wrong about that one. But either way, I think this is a good introduction to items for beginners. I hope that helped. I'll see you next time. Woo! Boy, that was a lot of talking, Jake. All right. Goodbye, everybody.